Good morning to our Professor Dr. Erlinda Agbayani and to my fellow classmates. Today, I am going to discuss the cognitive theories of learning. So what is cognitive learning? Cognitive learning is an active style of learning that focuses on helping a person learn how to maximize brain's potential. It makes it easier to connect new information with existing ideas, hence deepening memory and retention capacity. There is a young branch of psychology known as cognitive psychology. It is the study of one's internal processes. These are the things going on in your brain, such as thinking, attention, learning, and problem solving, also perception, among others. Now we go to what you call the components of cognitive learning. Traditional learning mainly focuses on memorization instead of trying to achieve mastery in a particular subject. The following are fundamental aspects of cognitive learning. First, we have comprehension. For comprehension and cognitive learning to be efficient and benefit you, you have to understand the reason why you are learning a specific subject in the first place. The second one is memory. Cognitive learning discourages cramming of information, which is very ineffective in education. Having a deep understanding of a subject improves your ability to relate new knowledge with previous experiences or information. And the last one, we have application. Cognitive learning strategies help you apply new information or skills in life situations. They encourage you as you continue to develop problem-solving skills. Now, we go to what you call your cognitive learning theory. In cognitive learning theory, it explains how internal and external factors influence an individual's mental processes to supplement a particular learning. The proponents of cognitive theory are Jean Piaget. We also have Vygotsky, and we also have Jerome Bruner. So who is Jean Piaget? The key areas of Piaget's cognitive theory are schema, the innate and acquired. Second, children are actively engaged in the learning process. Third, changing cognitive structures such as equilibrium, assimilation, and accommodation. We also have developmental stages of children which are defined. Now I am going to show you a particular video of Jean Piaget's theory.
Piaget's theory argues that we have to conquer 4 stages of cognitive development. First, the sensory motor stage. Second, the pre-operational stage. Third, the concrete operational stage. And fourth, the formal operational stage. Only once we have gone through all the stages, at what age can vary, we are able to reach full human intelligence. 1. The sensory motor stage, ages birth to 2. In the sensory motor stage, we develop through experiences and movement our 5 senses. Our brain wants to see, hear, smell, taste and touch as much as possible. First, we start with simple reflexes, and soon after we develop our first habits. From 4 months old, we become aware of things beyond our own body, and then as we get older, we learn to do things intentionally. A key milestone is the development of working memory, or in Piaget terms, our realization of object permanence. Before that, our mum can show and then hide a teddy, and we would think it's gone. After, we understand that objects continue to exist even when we can't see them. We start becoming curious about everything. We want to smell flowers, taste food, listen to sounds, and talk to strangers. To explore more, we move. We learn to sit, crawl, stand, walk, and even to run. This increased physical mobility consequently leads to increased cognitive development. But we remain egocentric, meaning we can perceive the world only from our own point of view. 2. The pre-operational stage, ages 2 to 7. Our thinking is mainly categorized through symbolic functions and intuitive thoughts. We have lots of fantasies and believe objects are alive. As we are not able to apply specific cognitive operations, Piaget calls this stage pre-operational. We learn to speak and understand that words, images, and gestures are symbols for something else. When we draw our family, we are not concerned about drawing each person to scale, but rather with their symbolic meanings. We love to play pretend, which allows us to experience something new and learn a lot. At around age 4, most of us become very curious and ask many questions. We want to know everything. We can call it the birth of primitive reasoning. Piaget calls it the intuitive age, because while we realize that we have a vast amount of knowledge, we have no idea how we acquired it. Our thinking in this stage is still pretty egocentric. We think others see the world like we do, and still don't understand that they see it differently. 3. The concrete operational stage, ages 7 to 11. We finally discover logic and we develop concrete cognitive operations, such as sorting objects in a certain order. One example of this is inductive reasoning, which means that if we see someone eating a cookie, we can draw a conclusion and then make a generalization. And we now get the concept of conservation. We understand that if we pour orange juice from a normal glass to a taller one, the amount stays the same. Our younger sister will pick the taller glass, thinking she gets more. By the same logic, we only now can understand that if 3 plus 5 equals 8, then 8 minus 3 must equal 5. Our brain learns to rearrange our thoughts, to classify and build concrete operational mental structures. For example, we now know that we can reverse an action by doing the opposite. Excited by our new mental abilities, we apply them in conversations, activities, when we learn to write, and in school. As a result, we get to know ourselves better. We begin to understand that our thoughts and feelings are unique and not necessarily those of others. That means that we learn to put ourselves in someone else's shoes. 4. The formal operational stage, age 12 plus. Once we become teenagers, we become formally operational. We now have the ability to think more rationally about abstract concepts and hypothetical events. Our advanced cognitive abilities allow us to understand abstract concepts such as success and failure, love and hate. We form a deeper understanding of our own identity and our morality. We now also think that we understand why people behave the way they behave, and as a result, can become more compassionate. Our brain can now do deductive reasoning, which means we can compare two statements and reach a logical generalization. Our new mental skills allow us to plan our life systematically and prioritize, and we can make assumptions about events that have no necessary relation to reality. We can now also philosophize and just think about thinking itself. Our new sense for our identity now also creates egocentric thoughts, and some start to see an imaginary audience watching them all the time. Piaget believed in lifelong learning, but insisted that the formal operational stage is the final stage of our cognitive development. Jean Piaget's first interests were animals, and he published his first scientific paper on albino sparrows in 1907 when he was just 11 years old. In 1920, he began working with standardized intelligence tests. He realized that younger children consistently make types of mistakes that older children do not. He concluded that they must think differently and spent the rest of his life studying the intellectual development of children.
We also have Vygotsky. His key concepts. Number one, cognitive development is essential as a social process. Second, thought development is determined by language. And the third one, intellectual growth is contingent upon the development of the social key language. We also have the video or the key concepts of Vygotsky. So I'm going to show you a particular video of Vygotsky's concept.
Vygotsky's theory of social development argues that community and language play a central part in learning, while Jean Piaget concluded that children's cognitive development happens in stages. Vygotsky rejected his ideas and believed that children develop independently of specific stages as the result of social interactions. Vygotsky claimed that we are born with 4 elementary mental functions: attention, sensation, perception, and memory. It is our social and cultural environment that allows us to use these elementary skills to develop and finally gain higher mental functions. This development ideally happens in the zone of proximal development. First, there is what we can do on our own. Then, there is the zone of proximal development, which represents what we can do with the help of an adult, a friend, technology, or what Vygotsky called the more knowledgeable other. Last, there is what's beyond our reach. To illustrate this, let us think of twins who were raised in a community in which boys are expected to learn and succeed, while girls are only expected to be pretty. At the age of 10 months, both have the ability to crawl and are in the zone of proximal development for learning how to stand on their feet. The more knowledgeable other, in this case the father, provides the boy with opportunities to practice in a playroom that he has equipped with scaffolding and other objects. The boy is encouraged to explore the equipment, and eventually he uses it to pull himself up. A few hours later, he's cruising along the structures, and a few days later, he's standing on his feet. The girl also has the potential to stand, but does not receive any support in learning the skill. When we compare the two, we see that while the girl is still trying to get up, the boy has moved into a new zone. He knows how to balance while standing and now has the potential to learn how to walk. Both will eventually learn how to walk, but according to Vygotsky, the boy will be more skilled. The same principles apply to all learning and the development of higher cognitive functions, and only those learning with the assistance of a capable mentor can reach the full potential of their ability. Vygotsky therefore believed that inside the zone of proximal development, learning can precede development, which means that a child is able to learn skills that go beyond their natural maturity. He also established an explicit connection between speech and mental concepts, arguing that inner speech develops from external speech via a gradual process of internalization. This means that thought itself develops as a result of conversation. Therefore, younger children who don't finish this process can only think out loud. Once the process is complete, inner speech and spoken language become independent. Lev Vygotsky died of tuberculosis in 1934 at the age of 37. Despite his young age, he became one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century. He left the following advice for educators. By giving students practice in talking with others, we give them frames for thinking on their own.
Now we go to Jerome Bruner. What are the key concepts of Jerome Bruner? First, we have inactive, which the muscle memory, a baby remembers how to shake, rattle, and the adult how to type or drive a car. And we also have the iconic, the images, and the pictures. Information is stored as mental pictures. This is why diagram and images are useful to learning. We also have symbolic, or the information is stored as a code, symbols and language. Symbols offer flexibility in that they can be manipulated, ordered, and classified. They can also be used to describe and explain abstract information that cannot be explored through the inactive and iconic modes. Now I am going to show you the concept of Jerome Bruner.
Jerome Bruner's theory of development is based on the assumption that we learn best when we go from concrete to abstract in a three-step process. First comes hands-on action, then learning with images, and finally students transform what they've learned into language. Throughout the experience, we constantly revisit previously learned topics, while teachers provide carefully structured guidance along the way. And it seems to work. In the 1980s, the Singaporean government decided to stop importing foreign textbooks and, instead, build the world's best maths curriculum from scratch. Since that time, Singaporeans study fewer concepts with greater detail, following Bruner's guideline. Before we learn how well this worked out, let's go through each step of the theory with an example. First, we learn through inactive representation. This happens in hands-on experiences, ideally with real-world applications. To divide 4 by 2, two students learn to cut a cake into 4 slices, so each can eat one now and bring one home later. Step 2 is iconic representation. We now link our memories of the experience to iconic pictures. Students are asked to draw a cake that was cut into 4 pieces. Last comes symbolic representation. We now use the images we internalized earlier and turn them into abstract language, such as mathematical symbols. Using a little bit of retrospection, we can easily solve the problem. This last phase is also called language-based because we are really just learning the right words and symbols to express our thoughts. The actual maths knowledge was acquired much earlier through hands-on experiences. Bruner, therefore, advocated for the use of spiral curriculum with continuous repetition of the same fundamental ideas. The curriculum is comprised of 3 characteristics. Students revisit the same topic at regular intervals. The complexity of the topic increases with each revisit. The new learning has a relationship with previous learning. Teachers also use scaffolding, a term coined by Bruner. Teachers do this by structuring activities based on students' existing knowledge and in a way that helps them to reach the desired learning outcome. The teacher first demonstrates the process as the student watches. Then the teacher lets the student have a go, steps back, and offers support and feedback when needed. Today, by the way, Singapore's 4th and 8th graders are the world's best in both mathematics and science, and Singapore's maths curriculum is copied by educators from around the world. Jerome Bruner was born blind in New York City in 1915. At age 2, modern medicine restored his vision. Later, he returned the favor by becoming a pioneer in cognitive development. He believed that any subject can be taught in an intellectually honest form to any child at any stage of development. What do you think about Bruner's theory and his suggestion for better learning? Is this how you learn in your studies? If not, what is one subject that you think could be made more understandable by following his ideas?
Now let's have cognitive techniques in language learning. Technique reflects activities or tools used by teachers. In cognitive language learning, activities used should focus on the effects in developing students' thinking ability and problem-solving ability. The goal is to get them thinking and applying problem-solving strategies without the use of preparation or steps that lead to an answer. Some cognitive activities include making maps, visualization, association, mnemonics, using clues in reading comprehension, and underlining keywords. Also, we have scanning, self-testing, and monitoring. We also have what we call your cognitive tools or learning with technology. According to Shim and Lee, 2006, they concluded that technology can benefit learners by supporting cognitive processes, sharing the cognitive load, allowing the learners to engage in cognitive activities that would be out of their reach, and allowing learners to generate and test hypotheses in the context of problem solving. There are 5 classes of cognitive tools suggested by Jonathan and Carr in the year 2000. We have the semantic organizations tools. We have the dynamic modeling tools. Third, visualization tools. Fourth, the knowledge construction tools. And the last one, socially shared cognitive tools. The 5 tools cover comprehensible aspects of language learning, including semantics, grammar, social linguistics, and the rest of it, providing instructions of teachers choice of technology tools in developing students' cognitive ability. Common cognitive tools are concept maps, knowledge forum, blogs, just to name a particular few. Now we go to what you call your cognitive learning strategies. Several psychologists have shaped the concept of cognitive learning through research. They came up with theories and learning strategies that can be implemented in a learning environment. So in this one, we have what you call your learner-centered approach. Jean Piaget termed learning as relating information to already existing knowledge, and each learner starts with their own knowledge and experience. According to his theories, learning begins with the accumulation of some basic knowledge and advancing deeper into the field with time. So you have those 3 vital components of learning, namely accommodation, assimilation, and we have the equilibration. So then how are we going to do this learner-centered strategy? In a learner-centered strategy, we can develop and introduce programs based on already existing knowledge. We can also provide more analogies to connect new knowledge with already existing knowledge. And we can also divide learning materials into stages and maintain a logical flow of lessons taught. What else can we do with learner-centered strategy? We can provide examples or practical tasks that show how information or new information or principles can connect with previous knowledge or enhance it. We could also encourage questions and comments. The second strategy is meaningful experience strategy. And meaningful experience strategy was based on David Ozabel, who made a clear distinction between meaningful learning and rote learning. According to him, material that was closely related to what the learner knew was meaningful and always turned out to be effective. Learners with relevant background knowledge find it easier to add a new information. And so we also have what you call your learning through discovery strategy. Jerome Bruner is a psychologist who built his theory on top of Piaget's theory of cognitive development that was focusing on learning through discovery. Through his study of cognitive learning in children, he suggested that they should be allowed to discover information for themselves. He believed that learners review previously learned material even as they gain new knowledge. Then we also have what you call your personalized learning strategy. All of these strategies can be combined into one personalized learning approach. Each learner is unique and has their own experience. knowledge, and perception, which can greatly influence the way they interpret and consume new information. Now, we also have what we call the benefits of cognitive learning. The following are the major positive effects of cognitive learning. First, we have enhances learning. Cognitive learning theory enhances lifelong learning. Learners can build upon previous ideas and apply new concepts to already existing knowledge. Second, it boosts confidence. Learners become more confident in approaching tasks as they get a deeper understanding of new topics and learn new skills. We also have the third one, enhances comprehension. Cognitive learning improves learners' comprehension of acquiring new information. They can develop a deeper understanding of new learning materials. And the fourth one, improves problem-solving skills. Cognitive learning equips learners with the skills they need to learn effectively. They are thereby able to develop problem-solving skills they can apply under a challenging test. We also have number 5, help learn new things faster. Through the experience of learning, the learners will be able to recycle and use the same learning methods that worked previously. This will help them learn new things a lot faster as they already know what works for them when it comes to obtaining new knowledge. And we have the 6, teaches to form concept formation or think abstract. Cognitive learning can also teach your learners to form a range of different concepts, such as easily perceiving and interpreting information that could boost creativity and lead to innovations in education. So those are the benefits of your cognitive learning. Now we go to the strength of cognitive approach in language learning. Cognitive approach aims to discover what might be the better way for the acquisition of language in our minds. It highlights how mental processes greatly influences behavior and the disparity of learning effects. If we have the strength of cognitive learning, we also have the limitations of the cognitive approach. So, the first limitation of cognitive approach in language learning lies in its ignorance of emotional variables. And what do you mean by that? For example, most cognitive tools such as database processor emphasize on the logical aspects of cognitive approach instead of emotional aspects. Language, as known to all, is more than merely communication tools and correlates closely with emotion, culture, and society. The ignorance of emotional variables and subjective aspects undoubtedly have a negative impact on learners' use of language in reality. The second limitation of the cognitive approach in language learning focuses on whether that we view the working procedure in our mind is true. Cognitive approach often relies on comparisons with how human mind might work. The method and tools we designed and use is mainly based on the assumptions without enough evidence and the technology. Even the newest is unable to compare with the complex operating processes of our mind. So those are the things about the cognitive approach. Thank you so much for listening to my talk today.